Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona. This is the 2021 TimeformUS Road to the Kentucky Derby series. We've got two Derby preps coming up this Saturday. I just did a video on the Holy Bull at Gulfstream, and in this one, we're going to take a look at the Grade 3 Robert B. Lewis at Santa Anita on Saturday. It's going as race 7 on their Saturday card. Let's throw up the field for this race, and we've got a pretty good one on tap. This is a very strong field of 3-year-olds for a Kentucky Derby prep in January. We've got some horses that showed form at 2, some maiden winners that are coming up that look to be pretty promising for this Derby trail. Just a really interesting mix of runners. The 5-2 favorite on the morning line is the number 1 Medina Spirit. For who else? Bob Baffert. He always has plenty of 3-year-olds to fire on this Derby trail. Medina Spirit seems to be one of the better ones in his barn, but he also has the number 8 Spielberg in this race. Doug O'Neill also has a couple of runners that are short prices on the line, those being the runner-up from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the number 4 Hot Rod Charlie, as well as impressive recent maiden winner Wipe the Slate. Before we get into the contenders, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector for this race. Not predicting a pace characterization that's necessarily fast or slow, but we do have 3 horses up towards the front end here, those being the number 1 Medina Spirit, the number 3 Parnelli, who's a bigger price, and the number 8 Spielberg, that other Bob Baffert horse. Also the number 7 Wipe the Slate. He figures to be forwardly placed as well coming out of sprint races. So it'll be interesting to see how these horses shake each other out on the front end. None of these, I think, are real need the lead types. They were all coming off stalking performances in their prior starts, but one of them is going to be in front, so we'll see if either of these jockeys or any of these jockeys are really intent on getting to the front end. We've got some closers in this race as well, like the number 2 Rombauer and the number 5 Roman Centurion. They'll be dependent on there being a fast pace up front, so we'll see how that develops. Moving into these contenders, let's take a look at those 2 trainers and the contenders they have in pairs, beginning with the Bob Baffert pair. The shorter price on the morning line is the number 1 Medina Spirit, and I mean, how can you knock this horse? He's done really nothing wrong in his first couple of starts. His debut didn't come back that fast when he won his first start at Los Alamitos last year sprinting, but he took a big step forward second time out when he faced his stablemate Life is Good in the Sham. Let's take a look at that race, and I really like this horse's performance. Life is Good was a heavy favorite in this race, and he looked like he was going to cruise to an easy lead coming to the top of the stretch, but his stablemate Medina Spirit was just relentless coming after him. He was under a hard drive going all the way back to the far turn, but he just kept responding to pressure, and Life is Good is kind of getting into deep water here because Mike Smith has to take out the whip on him, and Medina Spirit just keeps running on it as they come to the wire. He loses this race by just under a length, but he gets a very impressive 118 TimeformUS speed figure for that performance. Really, if Medina Spirit runs back to that kind of number in this race, he's simply going to beat this field. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. The question is, can he run back to that big performance? It's just his 3rd career start. I know some people believe in the bounce theory. I'm not really a big proponent of that, but this horse does have to prove that last race was no fluke. I like the way he's working into this race. He's actually been working in company with Spielberg, who we're going to talk about next. That January 22nd workout that he had coming into this race was in company with that horse, and Medina Spirit was going better in that workout, so he seems to be like he's coming into this race in very good form. And that other Bob Baffert runner, Spielberg, well, he's one of the more experienced runners in this race, having participated in 6 prior starts, all as a 2-year-old. This will be his 3-year-old debut. He won the Los Alamitos Futurity in his prior start. We'll take a look at that race. Really not the most impressive performance. I guess you'd call this a workman-like win. He was under pressure from a long way out and finally got to the long shot runner-up in here, the Great One, who was a maiden coming into this race. These two battled out to the wire, and Spielberg just gets his nose down in front as they get to the finish. This race was validated, though, when the Great One came back to win his maiden next time out, very impressively, doing so by about 14 lengths with a 113 TimeformUS speed figure. So that certainly bolsters the form of this Los Alamitos Futurity. The problem I have with Spielberg is he's been highly touted since last summer. He ran some triple-digit TimeformUS speed figures going all the way back to last September, and his form has just kind of plateaued since then. He's improved marginally over the past few months, but hasn't taken that big kind of step forward that we saw out of his stablemate Medina Spirit. I'm just not sure that he really has the necessary improvement in him to beat some more promising horses in this field. So I'll use him underneath, but I certainly prefer others on top in this race. Moving on to that pair of Doug O'Neill trainees, I think the more heralded of his pair is going to be Hot Rod Charlie, who's coming out of that second place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile from last year. Let's take a look at that performance. This was a really good effort. Hot Rod Charlie had no reputation coming into this race, getting dismissed at 94-1 on the tote board, but he made an early move leaving the backstretch to challenge for the lead, got to the front here, made the first move after Jackie's Warrior, who was softened up in a fast pace. He just gets run down late by the eventual likely 2-year-old champion champion, essential quality. But I thought he ran very well. That 113 Timeform speed figure stacks up really well against this field. He just is that proverbial one-hit wonder at this point. His prior form really didn't suggest that kind of performance was forthcoming. So we have to see if he's ready to duplicate that kind of effort as he comes back off layoff here. Seems like he's training well enough, and he certainly has a pedigree to be a good horse. He's a half brother to that very good sprinter from a couple of years ago, Mitoli. But we just have to see if he really is as good as that Breeders' Cup Juvenile suggests. I'm using him, but I didn't want to take him at what's likely to be a pretty short price. The other Doug O'Neill trainee is the recent maiden winner, Wipe the Slate. This horse looked pretty good winning his maiden last time out. He's one of a couple in here that was beaten by the highly regarded Life is Good in his first start back in November of last year. But he came back last time on December 26th at Santa Anita and put in a good effort to win by just over 3 lengths. We'll take a look at that performance. And I like the way he's finishing off this race. He stalked the pace in the early going, gets into the stretch, and really levels off nicely. This son of Nyquist has a pretty good stride on him. Looks like the kind of horse that should get at least a mile on the 16th. I'm not sure that more distance. I'm not sure if he's a real Kentucky Derby kind of horse down the line, given a sprint-oriented pedigree on the dam side. But I think a mile on the 16th will be okay for him. The big question for Wipe this late is just, is this too much too soon? And can he avoid getting caught up in a contested pace up front? I think he's got ability. We'll just see what kind of price he is and if he can take that next step forward. I'm actually interested in a different horse that's coming out of the maiden victory, and that's the number 5, Roman Centurion. This horse, like Wipe the Slate, finished behind Life is Good when he made his debut back on November 22nd, but they stretched him out to 2 turns in his second start, and I really like the effort he put forth in this race that we're going to take a look at now. He was well back in the early going here, lagging in about 9th place early, but he launched a wide, sustained run on the far turn, coming through kickback, got into the clear at the top of the stretch, and he just powers away from this field. I love the way that he's finishing off this race in the final 1/8 of a mile as he runs past the wire. And we're not going to look at the gallop out, but if you watch the gallop out in the replay, he opens up about 15 lengths on this field heading into the clubhouse turn. He seems like one that's going to appreciate every bit of added ground that he can get. Now, he is going to need some pace to close into here because he is a horse that has shown no early speed in his prior start, so he's going to need some pace to come back to him. But we've seen a pretty deep and tiring surface at Santa Anita in recent weeks, so I think that could help him as he tries to use his stamina to get the upper hand in this field. That 106 TimeformUS speed figure doesn't quite cut it against this group, but I think he's going to have another step forward in him. So I like the number 5 Roman Centurion in this race. And he's 8-1 on the morning line. I think given the money that the 2 Bob Baffert runners have to take, as well as that Breeders' Cup Juvenile runner-up Hot Rod Charlie being in this field, all those horses should be relatively short prices. So I think we'll get every bit of that 8-1 price, if not higher, on Roman Centurion. And he's my value play in this Robert B. Lewis. That's my top pick, the number 5. I'll also use the number 1, Medina Spirit, underneath. In many ways, he really is the horse to beat, and I think a legitimate favorite in this race. I just wanted to go for a bit more of a value play to use over him. Also, the number 4, Hot Rod Charlie in 3rd, and Wipe the Slate, the other Doug O'Neill horse, is my 4th pick in the Robert B. Lewis on Saturday at Santa Anita.